Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your real ID at tsa.gov/real ID. That's tsa.gov/real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Good morning. It is Liz Radabali here on the 5 o'clock news hour for Noam Laden this Monday, February 17th. Before we get into the top stories of the day, your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Today it's going to be sunny with a high of 31, but the winds will be high. Winds could hit up to 18 miles an hour. Tonight and overnight, it's going to be mostly clear with a low of 17. Tomorrow, sunny again, high of 27, and that sun sticks around Wednesday, high of 29. If you're heading out the door right now, over in Bridgewater, currently 28 and windy. 30, it's also an Islip, it's 30 and windy. And over up in Mount Vernon, it's currently 30 and windy up there as well. 31 and partly cloudy outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Your top 5 stories today. At least 10 people have been killed after severe storms hit the southeast. An emergency meeting among European leaders will focus on the Russia-Ukraine war. Several deputy mayors in the city are set to resign following the DOJ dropping the Mayor Adams corruption case. Another scam is making the rounds through the Big Apple. SNL marks 50 years on air. First up, at least 10 people died this weekend as a powerful storm swept through a large part of the United States, bringing widespread flooding and damaging winds to the southern and eastern states. In Kentucky, where flooding was inundated, at least 9 are dead. Governor Andy Beshear said in a post on social media yesterday, at least 1 other person died in Georgia. Emergency responders now in a search and rescue phase. They've performed over 1,000 rescues in under 24 hours. The governor described the storm as one of the most serious weather events we've dealt with in at least a decade. Video footage captured in multiple states shows the toppled trees, vehicles submerged in floodwaters, and those houses that were just hit with widespread reports of flooded roads, businesses, and homes in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. The deaths include at least 1 child, according to Beshear. We believe this number is going to grow, he says. He urged Kentuckians to stay off the roads, adding that several of the deaths have been attributed to car accidents. Beshear declared a state of emergency for Kentucky ahead of the storm this past Friday, and yesterday he thanked President Donald Trump for approving a federal disaster declaration, making federal aid funding available to impacted areas. The severe weather event will continue for several more days. That's according to Kentucky Emergency Management Director Eric Gibson. Beshear warned of continued flooding, including riverbank flooding, in the next coming days. FEMA is on site along with 146 members of the Kentucky National Guard. France is hosting an emergency meeting today, including top leaders from across Europe, to address the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. This comes after American officials said that Europe will not really have a say in the talks to bring an end to the conflict. French President Emmanuel Macron is leading that meeting. Others that will be in attendance, the German Chancellor, Prime Ministers for Poland, Italy, and the UK, along with officials from the EU and NATO. President Donald Trump stunned European allies in NATO and Ukraine last week when he announced that he held a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin without consulting them, and he would start a peace process. Trump's Ukraine envoy Keith Kellogg jolted Europe further over the weekend when he said it would not have a seat at the table for Ukraine peace talks, even after Washington sent a questionnaire to European capitals to ask what they could contribute to security guarantees for Kyiv. The U.S. has also asked European allies in NATO what they would need from Washington to participate in Ukraine's security arrangements. That's according to documents seen by Reuters. Moving into a more local story, New York City Mayor Eric Adams met over the weekend with at least 3 deputy mayors who've expressed their intention to resign from his administration. Sources say the meeting was via Zoom. Adams was attempting to slow down any final decisions being made to leave the administration. A spokesperson for the mayor says nobody has formally submitted any resignations. However, 3 deputy mayors, First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer, Deputy Mayor for Operations Mira Joshi, and the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services Ann Williams-Issam have already told the mayor that they plan on stepping down. A 4th Deputy Mayor, Chauncey Parker, who oversees public safety, has told the mayor's office of his desire to leave and was also on that call yesterday, according to NBC New York. This, of course, comes as the Department of Justice have dropped their corruption case against Mayor Adams. Yesterday, Adams was also at a church gathering in Queens Village where he denied any calls that he himself was stepping down. Another scam making its way through New York. Drivers being warned about a possible Easy Pass scam text trying to get tolls from gullible consumers. Governor Kathy Hochul's office announced that residents have been reporting fake texts, often from an international number, with a request to reply why to receive a link containing an unofficial website. Public safety is my top priority, which is why I'm urging New Yorkers to take caution against senseless scammers sending fake Easy Pass text messages in an attempt to collect money for fake unpaid tolls. That was Kathy Hochul in a statement. And SNL marks 50 years on air.
50 years. Saturday Night Live's been on for 50 years. 50 years of your sketch killing at read-through and finding out they didn't pick it because the host didn't want to take off his shirt.
Even though it's Saturday Night Live, the anniversary special took place last night on Sunday. 3 hours celebrating the iconic sketch show. It began with a concert, and some iconic characters made their return. Kristen Wiig's Dunice, Will Ferrell's Robert Goulet, Molly Shannon, Sally O'Malley, Pete Davidson's Chad, Rachel Dratch's Debbie Downer, Cecily Strong's The Girl You Wish You Hadn't Started a Conversation With at a Party, and Bobby Moynihan's Drunk Uncle. Just getting this into the newsroom, 4 people are hurt and 1 person critical after an overnight fire in Washington Heights that took place at an apartment. Fire officials say at least 1 of the victims critically injured. The flames broke out on the 3rd floor of an apartment building over on Wadsworth Avenue around 12:40. At least 2 people were treated on the scene and refused further attention. FDNY was able to get the fire under control in an hour. The cause of that fire is under investigation.
77 WABC Weather Alert.
Well, if you thought the winter weather was over, buckle up. New York could see the, quote, snowiest storm of the season this week as a powerful winter storm is making its way through the southeast and plains region, creeping towards the tri-state area. Forecasters say it's too soon to tell how many inches will dust the Big Apple and surrounding suburbs, but it is possible that the snowfall could top the record from this season of about 3 inches. We still have some time before the storm hits. The worst is expected this coming Thursday morning. Calls are growing for Mayor Eric Adams to resign over the Justice Department's order that corruption charges be dropped against him. Lisa Ritchie has more.
Governor Hochul says she's not ruling out removing Adams from office for violating the city's sanctuary laws by allowing ICE agents access to Rikers Island.
The allegations are extremely concerning and serious. But I cannot, as the governor of this state, have a knee-jerk, politically motivated reaction like a lot of other people are saying right now. I have to do what's smart, what's right, and I'm consulting with other leaders in government at this time.
Hochul appeared on MSNBC Friday. At least 7 federal prosecutors have resigned for refusing to comply with the DOJ's order. The DOJ formally asked a judge to drop the charges, with that request filed after business hours on Friday. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
And yesterday, protesters gathered outside of City Hall in Lower Manhattan demanding Adams step aside. Candidate in the mayoral race and city council member Zoran Mamdani was in attendance.
In this moment, when Donald Trump and his administration is asking the question of who we are willing to give up, the answer from Mayor Adams is seemingly everyone. Whether it's immigrants, whether it's trans New Yorkers, seems to be everyone. But the answer for us is no one. Because we know that no matter the identity you are focusing on, you are talking about a New Yorker. And we are going to fight for every New Yorker in the midst of this billionaire-backed assault on our working class. And we have an election on June 24th. And I believe that we will resoundingly reject this kind of leadership. But Mayor Adams is a walking emergency, and we cannot afford to wait until June 24th. And that is why I am calling on Governor Hochul to remove Mayor Adams from office immediately.
Meanwhile, border czar Tom Homan is denying that there was any deal to get the charges against Adams dropped. He appeared on CNN's State of the Union yesterday.
It sounds like the DOJ dropped the case against Adams, and in exchange, he let you into Rikers. Is that what happened?
No, I think that's ridiculous. Me and Mayor Adams met a couple months ago. I think it was probably 9 weeks ago we met. We had the same discussion, and we talked about getting a presence in Rikers Island. We talked about how we can collaborate on public safety threats and finding the missing children that can't be found after they release their sponsors. And we had that a couple months ago, long before this other discussion. So I don't think it had anything to do with it. Matter of fact, the meeting was very well. It was the same meeting we had a few weeks ago. The reason we had the follow-up meeting because there's no action being done. So we follow up on how we can get some of this stuff in place, and that's what the meeting Thursday was about.
Homan compared his last meeting to his latest meeting, his last meeting that he had in December to his most recent one that he had with Adams this past Thursday.
Look, the first meeting, if you look at my interview after the first meeting, I said to the whole world, I've called that mayor out for a couple of years because I didn't think he was doing the right thing as far as public safety threats. And that first meeting back in December, I said to everybody that interviewed me, for the first time I saw the cop in him. I saw the cop come out of him. He talked about how he wants public safety threats removed from New York City. He wants illegal alien crime to decrease in New York City, and there's a way we should collaborate on that. We agreed that he doesn't want to be an immigration officer. I don't want him to be an immigration officer. We agreed on that. Well, I just want him to help me with the public safety threats, leave immigration enforcement to us. So it was a great meeting. Just the actions following up that meeting were slow to happen. That's why I requested a second meeting to find out what more do we need to do to get some of this stuff in place. So I just think, people are making a lot about nothing. I mean, again, I went up there as the ICE director. Now the borders are, and we collaborated on how to move illegal alien crime, decrease it down in New York City, and find the worst of the worst. And that's what we talked about. It was cop to cop, not borders are to mayor, cop to cop. And we talked about the public safety threats and how they should be removed from our communities. And that's what was in the conversation.
The entire case against Adams was tied to alleged bribes he took while in office. Prosecutors say he took $123,000 worth, including for travel upgrades, and another $10 million in public campaign funds. Acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Danielle Sassoon, resigned because of the Justice Department's directive for her to scrap the charges against the mayor. 77 WABC News Time is 5:15. Time to head over to the sports desk with Justin Ellick. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you very much. We will check in on ice hockey here to start, where Saturday night saw Team USA defeat Team Canada 3-1 in the NHL's Four Nations Face-Off tournament. After the opening 9 seconds of the contest saw 3 fights following the Montreal crowd's booing of the American national anthem. The Americans didn't like that very much. Jake Guentzel netted a pair, and Dylan Larkin added a tally as well for the Americans, who punched their ticket to the championship game and lead the round-robin tournament with a total of 6 points. Canada trails in second place with 2 points, tied with the rest of the field in Finland and Sweden. 2 more games are slated for today as action picks up now from Boston's TD Garden. All action up to this point has been in Montreal. Canada will face off with Finland at 1 p.m. before the United States and Sweden get underway tonight at 8 p.m. To college basketball, where R.J. Lewis Jr. had 23 points and 14 rebounds to help number 9 St. John's strengthen its grip on first place in the Big East with a 79-73 victory over number 24 Creighton yesterday. The Red Storm lead the Blue Jays by 2 games. A Creighton win would have given it the head-to-head tiebreaker over St. John's, which is seeking its first regular season title since 1986. Davon Smith played 26 minutes and shot 4 of 9 after missing last week's loss at Villanova with a neck injury. Smith was 8 for 34 in his previous 4 games after hurting his shoulder on January 11th. The Red Storm shot 58.6% from the foul line, clearly playing a role there in the victory. Up next for St. John's, they'll visit DePaul come Wednesday. In San Francisco, Steph Curry took home All-Star MVP en route to his team, and Team Shaq's victory in the first 240 finale to win in the league's new round-robin tournament. L.A. Lakers forward LeBron James sat out the All-Star game, his first time missing the game in his career because of lingering discomfort in his left foot and ankle. League play throughout the NBA will resume on Wednesday night. The Knicks and the Nets will both return to action come Thursday. Finally, out of the NFL, 7 more women have accused Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker of engaging in sexually inappropriate misconduct at high-end spas. The Baltimore Banner reported yesterday this increases the total to 16 therapists from 8 spas to make allegations of inappropriate behavior by Tucker. All the incidents reportedly occurred during sessions from 2012 to 2016, which were Tucker's first 5 seasons in the NFL. Still waiting for Tucker to make a statement on the above. That is your sports, Liz, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Thanks, Justin. 77 WABC News Time is 5:18. Time for traffic transit. At least 10 people are dead as several severe storms slam Kentucky and the Southeast. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear confirmed yesterday the 9 people were killed in extreme flooding across the state, while he noted that the number of deaths is likely to climb. He also pointed to the lives that have been saved.
We've already seen over 1,000 rescues. That means there's 1,000 plus Kentuckians that are safe, primarily because of the swift water boat teams, as well as so many other responders that are out there.
Beshear said that President Trump has already approved a disaster declaration for those areas that were hardest hit. Meanwhile, at least 1 other person was killed in Georgia by a falling tree in Atlanta early yesterday. Torrential rain and strong winds left tens of thousands without power from Ohio to Mississippi and beyond over the weekend. A parade in Maryland honoring the American abolitionist and statesman Frederick Douglass is being canceled after the state's National Guard was forced to pull out of the event. Scott Carr reports from Washington.
Officials with the Maryland National Guard say the Frederick Douglass Memorial Parade will have to be canceled for one reason: the parade's connection to Black History Month. In a memo, Guard officials say that since the event is organized as part of a Black History Month celebration, they can't attend or support the event. Department of Defense officials say it's because of recent policy changes by the Trump administration. The parade was set for this Saturday in eastern Maryland near Douglass's birthplace to celebrate what would have been his 207th birthday. I'm Scott Carr in Washington.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, says that the Trump administration is not doing enough to help fix the economy.
Well, Donald Trump and Republicans consistently promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living, and they've done the exact opposite. They've shown no interest and lowering costs in the United States of America, which are too high. Housing costs are too high. Grocery costs are too high. Child care costs are too high. Utility costs are too high. The cost of living is too high in the United States of America. This country is too expensive, but they've broken their promise. They have no interest in improving the quality of life of hardworking American taxpayers. Instead, what they're trying to do, while they distract the American people, is to jam the GOP tax scam down the throats of people all across this country, all in service of massive tax cuts for their billionaire donors and wealthy corporations. It's a toxic bait and switch that is underway, and we will continue to push back forcefully.
Jeffries, appearing on ABC's This Week, addressed the House GOP budget resolution. Some worry the measure may not make it past the first chamber due to cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid. Several Republicans, including New York's Nicole Malliotakis, tell The Hill that they are waiting to see more information about the cuts before they voice their support. Apparently, there is a fair amount of lawmakers upset, reportedly in the double digits. The GOP holds a very slim majority in the House, raising the alarm for House Speaker Mike Johnson. Republicans can only afford to lose one singular vote. The Trump administration is firing over 400 employees at the Department of Homeland Security. Chris Coraggio has the story.
The majority of the cuts were employees from FEMA, but workers at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services were also terminated. A DHS spokesperson said under President Trump's leadership, we are making sweeping cuts and reform across the federal government. It's the latest mass purge of federal employees by Trump's administration, just days after thousands of probationary employees were also fired. I'm Chris Coraggio.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country won't recognize any of its territory occupied by Russia as part of Russia. Mark Mayfield has more.
Appearing on NBC's Meet the Press, Zelensky said no amount of negotiations will get Ukraine to change its borders.
Even Crimea, we will never recognize it, because in years, all things which are Ukrainian will be Ukrainian.
This comes after President Trump said it's unlikely that Ukraine will get back all its territory it's lost in the war as part of a peace deal. Zelensky went on to say Ukraine needs security guarantees from the U.S., emphasizing that his country joining NATO is the cheapest way to ensure regional stability. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The end to the Russia-Ukraine war still not fully in sight as leaders work to bring the conflict to an end. Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, was on Fox News Sunday where he answered to questions on whether Ukraine and Europe should be directly involved in negotiation talks.
Well, look, the Ukrainian people have fought valiantly. They have seen entire cities destroyed. The United States and Europe has supported this effort, but the United States unquestionably has borne the brunt of that support over the years. But now President Trump is clear it needs to come to an end. And there are key tenets that will drive these negotiations. Number one, it has to be a permanent end to the war, not a temporary end to the war. Number two, this can't be ended on the battlefield. This has turned into a World War I style meat grinder of human beings.
Waltz is heading to Saudi Arabia to help move along the peace talks. President Donald Trump said he spoke by phone this past Wednesday with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky about the prospect of beginning negotiations to end the war. Senior Trump administration officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and the U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, have been huddling in Germany this weekend for the Munich Security Conference. That's a forum for international security policy where the Russia-Ukraine war was a hot topic of discussion. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made his overseas debut where he spoke about those warring nations.
We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. A durable peace for Ukraine must include robust security guarantees to ensure that the war will not begin again. This must not be Minsk 3.0. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
The comments have disturbed some lawmakers. Senate Armed Forces Services Chair Roger Wicker said Hegseth made a rookie mistake. Trump said he thought Hegseth's comments were good and probably good. He said they were good yesterday and probably good today. And when he was asked for his response, European leaders, though, on edge after Trump's special envoy for Ukraine revealed that Europe will not be consulted and ultimately excluded from the United States during those peace talks.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Good morning. It is Liz Radabali filling in for Noam Laden this Monday, February 17th. Before we get back into the headlines this morning, your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Today it's going to be sunny with a high of 31. The winds are going to be pretty high, topping at 18 miles an hour. Tonight and overnight going to be mostly clear with a low of 17. Tomorrow sunny again, high of 27. And Wednesday sun sticks around, high of 29. If you're heading out the door right now, over in Bridgewater, 28 and mostly windy. Out on Long Island, Islip is currently 30 and mostly windy. And Mount Vernon, 31 and windy. Right now, outside our Midtown studios, 31 and some broken clouds. Back into the local story, several deputy mayors in the city set to resign following the DOJ dropping the Mayor Eric Adams corruption case. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he met yesterday with at least 3 deputy mayors who've expressed their intention to resign from his administration. Sources say that meeting was held via Zoom. Adams was trying to slow down any final decisions being made to leave the administration. A spokesperson for the mayor says nobody has formally submitted any resignations. However, 3 deputy mayors, including the first deputy mayor, Maria Torres Springer, deputy mayor for operations, Mira Joshi, and deputy mayor for health and human services, Ann Williams-Issam, have already told the mayor that they intend to step down. A 4th deputy mayor, Chauncey Parker, who oversees public safety, has told the mayor's office he intends to leave as well. He was included on that call yesterday, according to NBC New York. This, of course, comes as the Department of Justice have dropped their corruption case against Mayor Adams. Yesterday, Adams was also at a church gathering in Queens Village where he vehemently denied any calls that he himself is stepping down.
I know where I am right now, and I know who I am right now, and I know who I belong to right now. I don't know how to properly articulate that I am not afraid. And I wanted you to hear directly from me. No matter what they write, no matter all those who are tripping over themselves to state who I am and who I'm going to be beholden to and how I'm no longer independent, I know who I am. God is still in charge. He was in charge from the throne of 103rd Precinct. He was in charge when someone shot out my car windows. He was in charge when I became the mayor of the city of New York, and he never left being in charge.
Adams is denying any allegations that there was a quid pro quo agreement with the Trump Justice Department. And speaking of the mayor's race, the race is heating up. Over the weekend, former Governor Andrew Cuomo shared a campaign-style video on social media where the ex-governor spoke about ensuring the safety of New Yorkers. Also on Saturday, previous mayoral candidate and our very own WABC's Curtis Sliwa, founder of the Guardian Angels, once again threw his hat into the ring. Sliwa told his supporters he's running for mayor to help victims of crime, violence, and homelessness who have been ignored for way too long. Meanwhile, Adams once again reiterating that he does not plan on stepping out of the race. One local politician is celebrating the return of ICE agents to Rikers Island. Appearing on Fox and Friends Weekend, City Council member Vicky Palladino shared her take.
I was thrilled to death to see this happen. I think it was going to be inevitable. You know, Mayor Adams has tried over the last year and a half to move the needle on the record with ICE to get them onto Rikers Island. Now, how many people out there know that the progressives, here's something that you might like, Rachel. The progressives pushed hard to get a federal monitor onto Rikers Island with the end results to bring forward the final closing of Rikers Island, to cement it. Well, now we have a federal monitor in there, and we have Trump in the White House, and we have Holman, who can maybe take over Rikers in a federal sort of way because the monitor is already there. So maybe he could use that little loophole to go further.
She went on to say that she is pushing for the Big Apple to get its own Department of Government Efficiency.
Yes, we've been talking about this. I actually have, I'm putting together legislation to bring Doge to New York. It's a much needed thing we need here in our city and in our state. Yeah, very, very important. Of course, the city council won't even look at it. But just the same, make people aware of what we're capable of doing if we change the leadership in the city of New York and in the state of New York. I believe that Adams is going to cooperate. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Yes, we, in good faith, said that we were only going to go after the criminals, the worst of the worst, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I believe that, as you said, that little tip to Holman, which I met the other day, and I spoke to his chief of staff, and I spoke to her and I told her about this.
77 WABC News Time, 5:39. Back to Vicky Palladino. She reiterating that she's hopeful with Trump back in the White House. She announced a special hearing coming up next week for the city council.
Here's something I want everybody to know. We're having a public safety hearing in city council next Monday, the 24th. And that public safety hearing is going to do away with the gang database. So this mayor, Adams, is working, this city council is working against him in every way possible. And what they want to do is, as we know, many criminal illegals are in the gang database. So now they want to do away with that gang database. And if my city council has their way, they will. So this going hand in hand with Holman, I'm telling you, Adams is going to circle full circle. He's going to do exactly what Holman said. You heard what Holman said on the couch, right?
Yes.
If he doesn't follow through, I'm coming back.
And now moving to Queens, police are investigating after a Brooklyn teen was fatally shot in the head. 17-year-old Diaza Barkley was found with a fatal gunshot wound to the head inside a house in Jamaica, Queens, just after 5 o'clock last night. Police were called to the scene over reports of a shooting. She was rushed to Jamaica Hospital Medical Center, but then was pronounced dead. Exactly what happened to this girl and why she was there in Queens, which was not her home, it remains unclear. Her friends and family been left shocked by that killing. Apparently, her mother told the New York Post she was getting ready to graduate high school and her plans were to apply for a job in the Air Force. A family friend who declined not to be named described her as someone who loved her family and was always well behaved. And she just came up from a wedding, that friend, and was called by the mother, who was crying, told what happened. Apparently, the address where she was is a large house on a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood street. A person of interest in that shooting was taken into custody and being interviewed. Law enforcement sources still investigating. Photos from the scene showed a man being led away from the house in handcuffs. A suspected Ebola exposure at a Manhattan urgent care facility had 2 patients rushed to the hospital by emergency workers in hazmat suits yesterday, but the disease has been ruled out. The patients were transported from a CityMD on East 125th and Lexington Avenue by first responders wearing hazmat suits. That's according to law enforcement officials, but they said it was most likely the norovirus and not Ebola. Officials feared that Ebola infections, since the patients may have had contact with an individual or individuals who traveled from Uganda and had symptoms consistent with the disease, but no test had confirmed its presence. Early emergency notifications were that the patients may have traveled directly. An investigation determined the illness had spread quickly between family members, which meant that it may more likely be norovirus. One of the patients was taken to Bellevue Hospital for routine testing and treatment. The NYC Health Department is in close communication with the FDNY, CityMD, and NYC Health and Hospitals. Ebola, which is spread through the contact of bodily fluids of an infected person or contaminated materials, manifests as a deadly hemorrhagic fever. Its symptoms include fevering, vomiting, diarrhea, muscle pain, and at times internal and external bleeding, and are similar to those of the norovirus, though the sickness is not deadly. One Dutch politician is making a counteroffer for President Donald Trump's desire to buy Greenland.
Haarlem, Brooklyn, Flushing, Coney Island, or as we call them, Haarlem, Breukelen, Vlissingen, Konijneneiland. We intend to bring back these names, make New York great again by bringing it back to the Netherlands. The Dutch invented the stock exchange and founded New York, so why not? We get Nasdaq. You get to join our densely populated country full of rude people that like to make money. Perfect match. Trump Tower will become a red light district, making it less sleazy than it is now. All avenues will be bike lanes, which allows you to yell from your bike to pedestrians, a rude thing the Dutch like and that you, New Yorkers, would like as well. Our Dutch beaches are too full, so we need a new one on FDR Drive. It will be great. It will be the New York Riviera. Enough planning. Let's talk business. We offer $3 trillion plus Geert Wilders. And in exchange, we get all the 5 boroughs plus the Hamptons. USA can keep the rest of the state, and you can keep the jets. President Trump or Elon, whoever is in charge, call me and we will make a deal, and it will be great.
That was Gerben John Gerbindry, a member of the European Parliament. He made the counteroffer after President Donald Trump has floated that he wants to acquire Greenland from the Dutch. And a candidate in the race to be the next mayor is rolling out a proposal to get items out of their plastic cages at pharmacy chains across the city.
Cut down on retail theft, help our businesses, and free the toothpaste.
Democrat City Comptroller Brad Lander says that if he's elected mayor, he wants to give the NYPD full access to store surveillance footage.
It'll mean the NYPD can conduct investigations using the cameras from stores more easily. They can use that data to identify patterns, including the individuals who have hit a store again and again.
This coming as major retailers like Walgreens reveal that putting the items behind the barriers is actually hurting business. 77 WABC News Time, 5:45. Time to head over to the sports desk with Justin Ellick. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Lizzie. Thank you very much. Checking in here on ice hockey and the NHL to start, where Saturday night saw Team USA defeat Team Canada 3-1 in the NHL's Four Nations Face-Off tournament. After the opening 9 seconds of the contest, saw 3 fights following the Montreal crowd's booing of the American national anthem, and our guys, they didn't take kindly to that. Jake Gunsel netted a pair, and Dylan Larkin added a tally as well for the Americans, who punched their ticket to the championship game and lead the round-robin tournament with a total of 6 points. Canada trails in second place with 2 points, tied with the rest of the field in Finland and Sweden. 2 more games are slated for today as action picks up from Boston's TD Garden, as all action up to this point has been played in Montreal. Canada will face off with Finland at 1 p.m. before the United States and Sweden get underway tonight at 8. to college basketball, where R.J. Lewis Jr. had 23 points and 14 rebounds to help number 9 St. John's strengthen its grip on first place in the Big East with a 79-73 victory over number 24 Creighton yesterday. The Red Storm, now 22-4, 13-2 in conference, lead the Blue Jays, who are 18-8, 11-4 in conference by 2 games. The Creighton win would have given it the head-to-head tiebreaker over St. John's, which is seeking its first regular season title since 1986. Davon Smith played 26 minutes and shot 4 of 9 after missing last week's loss at Villanova with a neck injury. Smith was 8 for 34 in his previous 4 games after hurting his shoulder on January 11th. The Red Storm shot 58.6% from the foul line, helping them to the victory. Up next for St. John's, they'll visit DePaul come Wednesday. In San Francisco, Steph Curry took home All-Star MVP en route to his and Team Shaq's victory in the First to 40 finale to win the league's new round-robin tournament. For LeBron James, sat out the NBA All-Star game, his first time missing the game in his career because of lingering discomfort in his left foot and ankle. League play throughout the NBA will resume on Wednesday night. The Knicks and the Nets will both return to action come Thursday. Finally, out of the NFL, 7 more women have accused Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker of engaging in sexually inappropriate misconduct at high-end spas. The Baltimore Banner reported yesterday. This increases the total to 16 therapists from 8 spas to make allegations of inappropriate behavior by Tucker. All the incidents reportedly occurred during sessions from 2012 to 2016, which were Tucker's first 5 seasons in the NFL. Tucker has yet to comment on these newest allegations. That's your sports list, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
In some more national news, Ukraine Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he wants all hostages held by Hamas to be released as soon as possible, but did not confirm whether the ceasefire deal between Israel and the Palestinian militant group will be upheld. Rubio told CBS's Face the Nation he's working closely with the Israeli government to secure the immediate release of the hostages, despite the agreement outlined in the ceasefire deal.
There are some that are supposed to be released coming up next weekend. We expect that to happen, but we'd like to see them all come out. We're not in favor of waiting weeks and weeks. Now, that may be the process that's in place because of the deal, but we would like to see them all out as soon as possible.
Rubio's comments come nearly a week after President Donald Trump threatened that if all the hostages were not released this weekend, all hell is going to break out. Rubio says even though the existing hostage deal outlines a gradual release of the dozens of Israelis still in captivity, the Trump administration wants them out immediately.
We share the goal that every hostage needs to come home, every single one, without delay. Obviously, there are details of how we're pursuing that and coordinating that we're not going to share publicly because we don't want to endanger the hostages and we don't want to endanger this process.
Rubio says the U.S. and Israel working closely to secure their release.
But suffice it to say that if it was up to us, every one of these hostages would be home right now, and we want it to happen as soon as possible.
Hamas released 3 more hostages this weekend after threatening to postpone the exchange over claims that Israel is violating that ceasefire deal. Several politicians still not happy with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Virginia Senator Tim Kaine was on Fox News Sunday.
And Donald Trump has 2 Republican houses. He's got a budget discussion that, has to have a resolution by March 14. Why isn't he getting the Republican leaders down in the White House and saying, here's what we're going to do? He's making all these cuts without them because he doesn't even think the Republican leadership will go along with him. Bill Clinton did things to shrink the size of government, and he did it with Congress. There's a difference between that and ignoring Congress and violating the law.
But the executive branch does have a lot of authority and purview over things that are within the executive branch and decisions about money and how it's dispersed. I mean, that is part of the president's authority.
The president has authority, but the president also has to follow the law. There's this law that the Impoundment Act, that says once Congress has appropriated dollars for a particular purpose, the president is not allowed to say, yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to spend this money, but not that money. The president needs to follow the law. And that's why, so far, there's a whole lot of lawsuits that have been successful.
Kaine mentioning those lawsuits, several states' attorneys general, including New York's Letitia James, have filed suits against DOGE. Speaking of DOGE, a conservative influencer is claiming to have had Elon Musk's 13th child. Jim Forbes has the latest.
Ashley St. Clair, a conservative writer and author, posted on X Friday night that she and Tesla CEO Elon Musk have a 5-month-old child together. She began the post by stating, quote, 5 months ago, I welcomed a new baby into the world. Elon Musk is the father. Claire said that she is sharing the news because the tabloid media intends to run the story. Claire did not specify which media organization she was referring to and asked for the media to honor the child's privacy and refrain from, quote, invasive reporting. I'm Jim Forbes.
Kentucky is the worst state to retire, followed by Louisiana, Mississippi, Washington, New Mexico, and the Garden State, New Jersey, making the list. Wallet Hub looked at 46 key indicators of retirement friendliness, everything from tax rates, cost of living, access to quality medical care, and fun things to do. The best states to retire: Florida, number 1, followed by Minnesota, Colorado, Wyoming, and South Dakota. The former Navy SEAL who nailed Osama bin Laden has gone from killing to chilling. Robert O'Neill, the decorated ex-Navy who fired the bullets that killed Osama bin Laden, is now rolling out as the new owner of a new cannabis firm, operator Canaco, and that's going to start soon selling his own brand of state-licensed medical marijuana in New York City pot shops. That's according to the New York Post. He tells them, "I wanted to get into the cannabis business through my experience in the military and watching vets suffer from things like post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a good way to take the edge off. It also helps get rid of the noise." The expert marksman said he plans to deliver a portion of revenues from his company to disabled vets through a separate charitable group. He acknowledged that marijuana was the last thing on his mind serving as a Navy SEAL commando, noting that pot and other drugs are forbidden in the military. One of the general rules in the military is zero tolerance. But the freshly minted cannabis merchant, he joked around that pot could help also diffuse much of America's nasty, divisive political discourse. A man is in custody after climbing to the top of the letter D on the Hollywood sign over the weekend. Police say he climbed the 45-foot-tall sign and was waving a flag displaying a social media account. He remained on the sign for about an hour. That's when he climbed down. He was taken into custody by park rangers and law enforcement, and that was just the end of that. Thousands of fake Forever stamps were seized at the Chicago International Mail Branch last weekend. The announcement was made this Thursday by U.S. Customs and Border Protections. The agency said it intercepted 8 shipments from China containing over 160,000 fake stamps. They were seized for violating trademark laws and found to be fake based on the routing and the efforts taken to hide those stamps. The supposed value of the stamps around $118,000, according to the CPB. And the NAACP warning companies that have been rolling back on diversity and equity inclusion initiatives that since President Donald Trump took office, he signed executive orders targeting those programs. The NAACP published its Black Consumer Advisory over the weekend, calling the administration's moves a direct attack on Black economic progress and painting them as an effort to reverse gains made in the civil rights and social justice areas. The advisory encourages the Black community to leverage its spending power to remind companies to renew their efforts to create a more equitable nation. Looking ahead to what's coming up on Sid and Friends in the morning. Justin, what you got?
Well, thank you, Liz. Kicking off a fresh week, obviously. Here's Sid and Friends in the morning. Kicking us off in the way of guests, going to be the boss man here early at 6:45. John Catsimatidis on a Monday, right before the great Congressman Mike Lawler joins us at the top of the 7 a.m. hour this morning. 7:45, we'll check in with Israel and Alex Trayman live from Jerusalem, our good buddy from JNS. At 8:30, it's going to be Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman hopping on the program. And at 8:45, our buddy and colleague here, Roger Stone. It's all coming up on your Monday edition. Sid and Friends in the morning. We get you going in the right way this Monday morning. Sid on the airwaves coming at you, Liz, in just a few short moments.
Thanks, Justin. Looking outside, getting the forecast. It's right now 29, and wind advisory is in effect all day. Winds are topping 19 miles an hour right now. It's currently 29 and mostly cloudy outside our Midtown studios. I'm Liz Radabali, filling in for Noam Layden right here on the 5 o'clock news hour. Sid and Friends in the morning, coming up next right here on 77 WABC.